Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I think you have
Good.
to turn your phone this way.
Let me see.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I've got it on one of those iPhone tripods, so it can
Oh,
only like stretch it one. Okay, I'm gonna have to hold it in my hand.
we got the lovely Sarah Landry in the house. Hey,
Hey, thanks.
I, man, let me tell you how I found your channel first and foremost. I was
Sure.
doing some research about what people don't want us to know, like secret knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came across your channel. You were talking about the dangers of fluoride. And so, because I was doing research about what people don't want us to know, I was very open-minded to hearing about what you had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let us know what the dangers of fluoride is, because you have deleted that video recently.
Yeah. I deleted that video because I don't want to make people feel afraid. Um, like you said that you found it by searching what information they don't want us to know. I think that like the human mind has a tendency to spiral into a really dark place as soon as we start kind of delving into conspiracy theories. And I mean, with the election going on in the States right now, I know everybody's in kind of a dark place, if they're following that. But
Most likely.
the whole thing about fluoride is that it's not an element that we're meant to consume. And like it definitely does have a property where it strengthens the enamel of teeth. But it also does something called calcification, which is something that basically turns soft tissue into bone, or calcium. Like it builds like an incrustation. And so when people consume fluoride, or like when they drink it, when it absorbs into the gums, like you know when you're brushing your teeth and the bristles of the toothbrush kind of poke your gums, that that in effect releases whatever is in the toothpaste into your body. It's kind of like when people have chewing tobacco, there's bits of like glass or something in it so that the tobacco enters the bloodstream. The same way when we brush our teeth, the bristles poke that toothpaste into our bloodstream. And so when fluoride enters the bloodstream, it doesn't just calcify the top layer of the teeth. It also starts acting on bones. Um, it's been found in the skeletons of kids who have lived in areas with tons of natural ground fluoride. Their joints kind of fuse together. Like at the knee, instead of the joint bending, the femur connects with the bones beneath it and with the kneecap, um, issue. And so when I started researching about this, like my main motivation in life has always been veganism. I'm a really strong animal rights activist.
Mm.
Um, but I started kind of searching health benefits of a vegan diet. And this was in, I guess, 2002 or 2003, like long before Game Changers or anything like that. Now it's kind of common knowledge. But yeah, that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of finding out all kinds of neurotoxins like fluoride that are put in our food or put in our water supposedly for our own good, but that are actually causing tons of problems. And like spiritually speaking, and there's controversy about this. It's kind of a scientific debate right now. But the center that regulates or supposedly regulates the visions that we have when we meditate or when we dream is called the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, this is kind of on the fringes of science. My uncle is a neuroscientist, and you know, he's told me that they can't really agree or disagree with this at this point because not enough research has been done. Um, but when fluoride starts calcifying the bones in the teeth, it also starts to calcify the pineal gland. And I kind of put two and two together when I was researching this because I've also been fascinated by Vedic science and meditation and the teachings of ancient India. And in one of the sutras, one of the scriptures I had read, the rishis, like the ancient scientists of the inner world, had said that when a child is ripe for enlightenment, their third eye is malleable like putty. But when a grown-up, when an adult becomes too jaded and cynical about the world to realize a spiritual ecstasy, the third eye becomes hard like a rock. And so I started to think, like, that sounds exactly like the pineal gland. When it's malleable, it's releasing dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, into the brain. But when it's calcified, that function effectually stops. And so I started to think maybe the pineal gland, as we call it in our modern scientific vernacular, maybe that's the same as what the ancient rishis and munis called the Agnya chakra, or the third eye. And, you know, maybe it's not just that we get jaded and cynical about life as we grow up, so it hardens. Maybe there are substances that we are consuming that kind of speed up that process. And like fluoride would be one of them. So when I started researching more, and this is where it can get a little dark. This is where it can take a person into kind of a fearful place, but this is a scientific fact. The first time human beings were ever deliberately given fluoride to consume was in Nazi concentration camps, because the Nazi scientists had found that when people drink fluoride in their water, it makes them more docile and more compliant. Like if you tell a group of people to cram into a gas chamber, of course they're going to fight, they're going to rebel, they're going to try to escape. But when people have been kind of doped with a heavy dose of fluoride, they'll just kind of go along with it. And so I started to think maybe there's something a little bit more sinister about all the municipalities fluoridating water. It's been banned in Europe. Like, the European Union won't let them put fluoride in water. That's illegal there.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate you. You know, for people who don't know what the pineal gland, because there's a lot of people that don't know, can you tell them what it is?
For sure. Yeah, it's a gland within the brain. Kind of, if you want to find where it is, if you look at the space between your eyebrows and then above the ears, so like in the very center of the brain. So imagine there's like a line running from where you touch here and a line running from where you touch there. Where those two lines intersect, that's about where the pineal gland is located. A lot of kind of spiritual scientists have linked that with the origin of our dreams or hallucinations. Like, there's a really brilliant researcher called Graham Hancock. I found him by watching the Joe Rogan Experience. So, I mean, it's relatable and it's easy to get in touch with for anybody. But he wrote a book called, I think it's called Supernatural. I've got it somewhere over here. Yeah, it's called Supernatural. And he kind of tests out and studies different shamanic traditions from around the world. So he tries peyote, he tries different herbs that are given by kind of medicine people of different ancient cultures. But one thing that they all kind of hold in common is that the center of the visionary experience comes from within, but it's kind of like the brain is an antenna to receive something more sacred that comes universally. It's not just your hallucination or your dream or your individual process. It's something kind of like tapping into a collective. And when people are aware of that, or when people are striving to make that connection, a lot of the times they think it's impossible for them. You know, I've heard a lot of people say they try to meditate, but as soon as they sit down and close their eyes, it's like, oh, fuck, that song is stuck in my head, or like, what am I going to make for dinner later, or do I have rent covered for this month, or does this person, you know, that asshole commented on my last feed, what's their problem? And it's like the mind starts spiraling into every other direction but meditation. Why is that? And so a lot of people have attributed that to the calcification of the pineal gland. That when this inner center starts to harden and loses its ability to release DMT, suddenly all of the things that make life seem magical and mysterious and exciting and make us feel like there's more than just the physical reality around us, we start to lose that. So the good news is, like, even if somebody's pineal gland has been calcified, there are ways to decalcify it. Consuming turmeric, for example, it's just a really simple Indian spice that you find in any curry, but that helps the decalcification. And of course, meditating.
I
But
see.
yeah,
That's I remember when you first said to remove fluoride, I immediately the next day went and got me a reverse osmosis machine.
yeah,
That was because of your video. I don't think you know what influence you can have on people. And so now I realize why we're called influencers.
yeah,
Because just that one video got me the very next day to get a reverse osmosis machine. And
nice.
so again, I was open to understanding what hidden secrets there were out there. And so if you mentioned that, I'm like, I gotta be open-minded, because what do I know? You gotta be open-minded, right? And so I was listening to, I don't know if you know Abraham Hicks.
Yeah.
And so she said to meditate and visualize on your goal, and as if it already happened, right? And so out of nowhere, I left my body. I had like an astral projection.
Nice.
I was freaking out when I returned back to my body. Yeah. But yo, it gave me a vision. I did the vision. I got like, the vision came to life. It said, do this idea, you'll get I think it was 40 million views. It got over 40 million views after I did the idea.
Wow. That's awesome.
But I wouldn't have thought of that myself. So it's like there, like you said, you receive information. It's an antenna, you said?
Yes, exactly. And the way that I feel this works, like a lot of the Vedic scriptures from India say that the reason we don't achieve our goals is that, like, for example, for me anyway, 40 million views is still an impossibility. Like you mentioned how we're influencers. I think I may have influenced maybe like, I've got 70,000 subscribers on YouTube. But when I make a video, it gets like 1,000 views. There aren't so many people watching each one. So for me, right now in this moment, 40 million views sounds like something impossible. So maybe it did for you too before you achieved that, right? A lot of the times, the reason we don't get the things we want is that initial feeling of impossibility becomes our entire experience of that situation. I'll try to give an example to make it more like relatable. When somebody decides, you know what, I'm going to start a channel and I'm going to reach people and I'm going to make the world a happy place and they're going to like it. When they first release a video, like the very first ever video, and it's published and it's out there, and the only reactions they hear from their friends and their family, the reaction might be like, oh, you're such an idiot. Who's going to watch this? Who's going to listen to this? Who do you think you are putting this out there? Suddenly they'll take that negative feedback and integrate that as the reality and think that's all there is to this thing. And so they won't keep going. But based on the Vedic understanding of life, everything is constantly a possibility. Like there's no set reality, there's no set future. We have free will, it's not predetermined. Like what you do determines what's going to happen next. And so when someone like Abraham Hicks tells you, visualize your goal as if it's already a reality, what that's doing is breaking through that barrier of impossibility you create. So if you publish a video and it gets like 20 views and 15 of those views are friends of yours and 5 of them are your enemies who hate you and just want to put a dislike and a negative comment, the impossibility that you build up by thinking like, okay, maybe this is shit, maybe it's not as great as I thought it was. When you visualize, okay, 40 million people are going to watch this and enjoy it, it's going to make them laugh, or it's going to inspire them, or it's going to make their lives better in some way. When you see it as if it's an unattainable goal, like when you put that 40 million like way up here, it's never going to happen. When you see it as if it's already the reality, like so that somebody tells you, okay, yeah, you got 40 million views. If your reaction is, wow, oh my God, I can't believe it, it's still not really going to manifest. But when your reaction is like, yeah, I know, like I knew it would, that's cool, now what? That's when you're living in that space of creation. You know what I mean?
That's it. You have to find the flow state.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And there's a description of enlightenment from India that I really love, that is when you can walk down the street and if people throw rocks, it doesn't hurt you. And if people throw flowers, it doesn't make you feel elated. Like when you're just you and you're stable in yourself, regardless of whether people are praising you or hating you, you're going to feel good. Like that's the goal state. That's the space where we want to be. And so when we're consuming a neurotoxin like fluoride, and it's not just fluoride, there's also aspartame, like that fake sweetener that you get in Diet Coke or that you can find in yellow packets at restaurants by the coffee. When you're consuming these kinds of things that dull the intellect, suddenly instead of creating your reality, what you're doing is you're falling into all the traps that are set out by advertisers, you know, like more specifically for women, it's the body image thing. Like if you're not the right weight, it used to be like if you're not super skinny, then you're flawed. And so a woman who has consumed something like fluoride and her pineal gland is calcified and she's not living from her truth, she'll suddenly get frantic about dieting and about trying to fit into that social norm. And it's not just about body image, it's like all the fears around us. If you turn on a television and watch it for 5 minutes of commercials, you're going to suddenly fear that you're going to get into crippling debt. And you know, when there's ads for different medications, like, do you have trouble sleeping? Do you ever worry that you may not become, like, you listen to 2 freaking minutes of that and suddenly you're afraid that you've got whatever disease they're trying to sell you a medication for. So the important thing about having that decalcified pineal gland and being in that spiritual creative space is that if you hear something like that, you can laugh at it and think, you know what, if so many people had these problems, and if this medication actually helped with those problems, they wouldn't need to advertise it on Fox News. You know, they wouldn't need to try to shill it like a snake oil salesman from the 1800s. So it's kind of like, to me, spirituality is just about being confident about who you are, to the point where other people's opinion of you doesn't change how you feel about yourself. And so when you get that reverse osmosis filter, so you're not consuming the neurotoxins in the water, and you know, you make conscious decisions about the foods that you eat, and you know, even the people you give your time and your energy to. Like there have been times in my life where I've spent like an entire day just in the comment section under a YouTube video. And like those are, some of them are good, but sometimes that can be like the worst thing that you can do. Especially when you're talking about stuff like this, because when you talk about spirituality, everybody's got an opinion. Mm-hmm. And like the last time I made a video about something spiritual, it was on Halloween. Someone asked me if I'd do a video about witchcraft, and I thought that's a fun topic. Yeah, I like the different shamanic and different pagan traditions from different world cultures. Let's talk about this. Well, one of the top comments is from a Christian person saying like, this is evil and burn in hell and blah 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 Jesus. It's like as soon as you start talking about stuff like that, um, and I mean, I have no problem with Christians, and I have no problem with the idea of Jesus, but it's not for me, you know? When when you're in a personal space where you feel secure in yourself, those kinds of comments don't drag you down. You can still just live your life and do your thing without that fear. And that's when you tap into these ideas. You know how you said you got this idea for something that got 40 million views. You have to be in that space of receptivity to get these like $1 million ideas. Those ideas don't happen in the mind that's distracted by did I answer those emails, or did I do the dishes last night, or what am I going to do about this or that? Like those ideas land in a mind that's clear. And that's why meditation is so valuable. It's not just to tap into something out there. It's also to, figure out the best ways to live down here.
When that happened, my head flipped back.
Yeah.
I legitimately left my body. I never knew what astral projection was at the time. It just happened on accident.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was just focusing on the third eye while meditating. And so a screen, like a movie screen, opened up while I'm in midair. I looked down, I could see my body through the roof. It's like an invisible lining. You could see through walls. A movie screen opened up and a vision came. It was a prank idea. It was like this crazy prank idea of me cheating on my girlfriend with like 3 girls in the bed. And so it was a crazy idea I had at the time. It just came to my mind, and I'm like, I would have never thought of this on my own. And so this is the idea that came to me, and then I come back into my body. I'm like, oh shit, what just happened? I couldn't move for like 3 seconds after I came back into my body because there's something called sleep paralysis.
Oh
so
yeah.
I'm trying to move so I can write down the idea. I can't move for like 3 to 5 seconds. I'm like, I want to write down this idea. I can't move, and then I can finally move. And so if I didn't write down the idea right away, it would have got lost because your subconscious saw that.
Yeah.
That was like, and so I immediately hired an actress to play as the girlfriend. I hired like 3 girls to be in the bed so that way they'll do the cheating prank. And so the idea was, what I saw was a girl saw me with 3 women in bed. She got angry. She goes to the hallway, grabs a gun, comes to me. Hey, what are you doing with this and that? And so a crazy idea. I would have never thought of that on my own. And so I immediately wrote down what I saw. And the place that we filmed it at was, the vision I saw was my best friend's bedroom. That's where we filmed it at. His sister has a pink bedroom, so it will look nice. Yeah. And so I'm like, why would I see this vision in my best friend's bedroom? My best friend's sister's bedroom, not even his. And so I asked him, can we film this here? And he's like, why? I'm like, I don't want to tell him I saw something, but I don't want him to think like I'm crazy or some shit. But I asked him, can we film it here? He's like, my parents will be out in like 6 months from now. We can film it then. I'm like, okay, 6 months is a good enough time to help me find all the actresses and all that. And so I'm like, okay, let's do that. And so 6 months time. I didn't have money at the time, I didn't have money to hire the actresses, this and that. But you have to be resourceful. So I told people, if you be in the video, I'll give you a shout out, this and that. And they're like, okay, I'll be in it if I can get a shout out. And so I'm like, I bet a lot of people will see this. And so I gave him the shout out, and I got the video set. I only paid one girl like $20 to be in it.
Wow.
Cause she's like, I'll do it for 20, no problem. And then we filmed it, and then in less than 2 days, it got 4 million views. And
Wow.
so all this traffic finally came over to my channel, and
Yeah.
I finally got my first $1,000 off YouTube.
Yeah. Nice.
I would never, like, I was broke, and then out of nowhere, I have $1,000 in a week. I've never made a
Yes.
$1,000 in a week before in my life.
Yeah. No, that's
And so
awesome.
that's. Have you ever astral projected before?
Uh, yeah, but kind of like you, not deliberately. Like it used to happen to me back when I was about 15 years old, 16 years old. Um, I would also get sleep paralysis, which you described, and I would just feel this huge upward push of energy like rushing towards my head. And like the first time it happened, it scared the hell out of me. I thought I was dying. Um, Especially when, like, it's so funny. The way you described it is exactly the same thing I experienced as far as, like, the walls all became transparent. Um, Sorry if my camera's shaking. My cat is climbing around all over me here.
It's okay, as long as I can hear you properly.
Okay, good. Um, but yeah, it's like the walls became transparent, and I could see through the ceiling to the stars that were above, and I could see like through the bottom of the house to the dirt, through that, like everything became like smoke haze. You know, where it's like it's there, but you can see right through it. Um, I didn't have any crazy prank ideas come to me back then. I think I was so freaked out by the experience that all I could really focus on was whether or not I was ever going to come back into my body again, or if this was it, this is the end. And, you know, around that time, I started to get this like huge fear of the dark because it was only at night when I was in my bed that this sleep paralysis or these weird, unwanted out of body things would happen. So I started to do this thing where, like, I was a teenager, right? So I'd stay up pretty late.
Mm.
Once my mom went to bed, I would turn on every light in the house so I didn't have to be in the dark. And then when it was like finally time to go to sleep, um, I would turn on like the hallway light and then backtrack and turn off the living room light and then go forward and turn on the kitchen light and then go back and turn off the hallway light and then go turn on the stairs light and then back to turn off, like, so that no step I took ever had to be in the dark. And I couldn't sleep unless my cat Sneaky was with me. He was like my comfort or my security at the time.
Mm.
And then this one night I had this thought, like, um, it came kind of out of nowhere, but I was like, am I going to live my entire life like this? Am I always going to be so scared of the dark that, you know, I can't go to sleep unless my cat is here? What am I going to do 10 years from now when he passes away? You know, what am I going to do one day if I've got roommates and they yell at me for having all the lights on? Um, so I kind of decided, like, right then and there, that's it. I have to fix this. Like, I have to face my fear. So I turned off all the lights. I put my cat in the hallway and closed my bedroom door so he couldn't come back in. And I sat on my bed and I took the pillowcase and kind of tied it like a blindfold so that I was in total darkness. And then I just started breathing really deliberately. I didn't know about chakras or about yoga or about the third eye or anything like that. I just started doing what came naturally. And after a few seconds of that, I just felt this overwhelming peace kind of fill me. And then, like, even though my eyes were closed and I was blindfolded, I suddenly saw a pair of eyes staring back at me. And I wasn't dreaming. Like, I was sitting up straight and I was conscious enough to realize, if I'm seeing these eyes, either, you know, this individual is looking back at me from within me, or it's projected onto the inner part of my eyelids, or maybe I've gone somewhere beyond myself and I'm in her domain. And what's interesting is, like, I was born and raised in Lethbridge, Alberta, in a Catholic community. Like, my granddad was the superintendent of the Catholic school board. My mom's a Catholic teacher. the only culture I'd ever experienced was a predominantly Catholic culture. And the only variety there is that, like, once in a while I'd hang out with some Mormon kids. So I had no idea about meditation or Eastern spirituality. But as I'm sitting there, like, blindfolded in the darkness, these eyes that I saw had a beautiful red bindi at the third eye point. And then, like, as I was gazing into this, I started questioning, like, who are you? And what is this place? And what's happening? And then I heard a sound like a snap come from, like, inside me. And as soon as I heard that snap, I could see her whole face, and there were these skulls, like, surrounding her like a garland. She had these gorgeous, glowing, they weren't scary, they weren't, like, ghoulish at all. They just looked beautiful, kind of like stars twinkling. And when I came out of that experience, like, I think this went on for about 10 minutes, and then I made a mistake. Like, if anybody's listening to this and you ever start meditating and you're having a beautiful vision, don't do what I did. Because I decided to see, if I take off the blindfold, will I still see her? So I took off the blindfold and I looked around my bedroom. And when I closed my eyes again, it was gone. Like, the experience ended. And yeah, like, I see advancement VT commented Kali. Exactly, it was Kali. But I didn't know that at the time. Like, I was in grade 10. I was, like I said, going to...
What's Kali?
Kali, she's the Hindu goddess of darkness.
Oh.
And she's the divine mother in the form that is, like, the primordial, untapped energy. And, like, different Hindu scriptures describe her as, like, the destroyer of demons or the protector of humanity, but she's a really beautiful, powerful embodiment of the goodness and darkness. So it's like, if you look at the night sky, those spaces between the stars, that's Kali.
Oh.
And what's interesting is that, like, I always have a tendency to doubt myself after things happen. Like when you had that vision for a prank, you're lucky that you actually made it happen. Like, you know what? I saw this happening in my best friend's sister's room, so, like, let's make sure we have access to it. Let's get some actresses. Let's do this. I used to really suffer from this quality where I would have a good idea, but no follow through. Like, I'd think something sounds good, but I just wouldn't do it. And that goes into spiritual experiences too. Like, I'll think, wait, did I really see that? Or did I imagine that? Or did this dream mean something? Or was it just random? But the night that I had this vision of this beautiful woman with a bindi and skulls adorning her, I couldn't forget it. Like, it was so powerful. It was so, like, the next day when I was at school, I was just like a shell of myself. Sorry, I'm trying to talk while this cat is... It's always when I'm filming a video that she's all over me. But the next day at school, like, I was sitting outside of the classroom. Like, we'd been given free time to work on our assignments. So I went outside the classroom and I sat down somewhere just by myself and was thinking about that experience. Like, okay, she looked by Christian standards like what we would call a demon, but I wasn't scared at all. It felt comforting and it felt good. And I couldn't figure out, like, what did the skulls mean or anything. And this kid, AJ, who I had never talked to before, like, he was in a different friends group and he was a grade, I think we were in the same grade, but he had transferred that year, so he was a new kid at school. He just came up to me and said, whoa, like, why don't you tell me a bit about that spiritual experience you had last night? And I was floored because I didn't tell anybody. Like, I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my best friends. I didn't even write it in my diary yet because I hadn't been home with time to do it. So I asked him, like, how did you know I had a spiritual experience? And he laughed and he's like, I'm from Arizona. Like, I see mystical people all the time coming as spiritual tourists. Like, I know the look of a person who's had a mystical experience. So like, and you've got that look. He said you look like somebody who just finished a retreat. And I said, like, that's crazy, because last night I decided to overcome my fear of the dark by facing my fears, and I told him what I had done, like how I'd sat down and blindfolded myself and stared into the darkness. And as soon as I told him that I saw this beautiful woman with, I didn't even know the word for a bindi, so I was like, she had a red dot between her eyebrows. And I told him about like the skulls that were around her. He just like dropped, like he just sat down next to me on the floor, like in the middle of the school hallway, and he's like, wow, that was Kali, like you've seen Kali.
Oh.
And I asked him, who's that? And he told me she's a Hindu goddess, and that he doesn't know much about her, but that he's seen her pictures and that she's always garlanded with skulls. And I said, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He's like, no, it's a good thing, it's a good thing. But
it's weird, whenever we have these experiences, like me, I kept it to myself for a good 2 years.
Yeah.
Like me, remember, I didn't tell my friend. I'm like, I'm not going to tell him.
Exactly.
I don't even know what happened.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like when you don't even know what happened, how do you tell somebody else what happened? Like you can't really. And then I really think it's good to keep our visions to ourselves, because as soon as you tell somebody else about it, they can laugh at you, they can devalue it, they can make you feel like it's silly. But when you keep it to yourself, it's like a sacred experience. It's your personal reality. But in that instance in my life, I'm really grateful that I had AJ there to tell him what I had seen. Because instead of devaluing or belittling the experience, he really validated it for me. And then it was like years later, my first year of art school, I was taking art history. And like I just opened the art history textbook to a random page. And the first thing that I saw when I looked down at that book was a picture of Kali. Wow. And of course, like it was a section of the textbook about Hindu art. But yeah, then that kind of rekindled my interest.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, thanks.
I appreciate you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Like you said, there's always trolls in the comment section, this and that. I don't listen to any of them because their view still gets me paid, so I appreciate them.
Yeah, no kidding, right? And if they leave a shit comment, that's like an interaction on your video, and advertisers like that, so you get a bit more AdSense.
I appreciate the hate. I appreciate the comments. Like I said, I know who I am. They can keep saying whatever they want. It doesn't affect me at all.
Good for you.
My question to you is, can people actually create their frequencies to such a high vibration where they're able to levitate?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's kind of a loaded question too, because my fascination for spirituality led me down a rabbit hole that eventually got me into a cult in India, led by this charismatic, well-spoken man who claimed to be an incarnation of Shiva. And like I was so intent on, like, I want to be my best self and make this world a better place and do everything I can to not only become enlightened, but I want to help other people get enlightened. Like I was so enthusiastic that I think I was exactly the right kind of target for this kind of a cult leader. And his big goal was to make all of us levitate and make all of us manifest powers that he called Shaktis. And so he would go on and on and on about how, sorry.
Sorry, let me grab this water right here. I'm gonna grab my water.
Of course. And I'm trying to get my cat to just settle down so I can hold my camera still for a second. But anyway, this cult leader was so angry and mean and condescending and belittling and berating when he would get like a group of us in front of him and tell us to levitate. And of course, like we sat there like lumps because we felt like shit because he made us feel like shit about ourselves. And so he would yell at us, not lecture, but like yell that we are spiritual consciousness and we are spiritual beings and we should raise beyond like the gravity of the world and levitate and take off. And basically he became just
Could he even do it?
No, he couldn't do
Could he
shit.
even
That's
do
why
it?
he couldn't do
And
anything.
what's the purpose of yelling?
These cult leaders have this superiority complex where they feel like even though they can't do something, if they tell you to do it, you better fucking do it because they said so and you're their devotee. I've been like super fascinated by the story of Nexium too. Like, have you heard of this? Not Nexium like the allergy medicine, but Nexium, this crazy like marketing cult that was led by a dude named Keith Raniere, who, thank God, he's got like 120-year prison sentence. These cult leaders I've been listening to, there's a show called The Vow, and it's kind of like the Nexium version of Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath. And so people who survived that cult share their experiences. Dude, I know when you invited me onto your podcast, I said, as long as I don't have to talk about cult drama, I'm in. But it's like it always kind of goes.
I feel like you talk about whatever you want. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Oftentimes, this shit is like therapy for people. They tell me.
That's true. That's so true. It's a catharsis. Like when we talk these things out instead of holding them in. You're right. So thank you for that.
I'm available if you want to talk about that. You're
awesome.
More than happy to. You know what I'm saying? People enjoy your stories.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. But yeah, these cult leaders, I think that they have a neurological disorder where they genuinely believe they're better than everybody else. Like they're the chosen one, or dude, there's a documentary on YouTube about all the different men in the world right now who each believe they're Jesus. And it's like a battle of the Jesuses. Like there's this Australian guy, there's this American guy, like, and each of them have amassed a small circle of followers, like 20, 30 people who like legit think that it's Jesus who has come back. And somebody like Keith Raniere, who started the Nexium cult, he told all of his followers that he is the most intelligent man on the planet. That, like, you know how you had the vision that showed you like what prank to do to get 40 million views? Well, he claimed that he had a vision for how to start a leadership course that would take anybody to achieve their goals. But all it really was a multi-level marketing scheme. And like eventually he got shut down by, I think, the IRS or something because he was evading his taxes. But anyways, I've been reading this book called Scarred, written by an author named Sarah Edmondson. And like she tells her story about how she got recruited into that cult. At the time, she was an aspiring actress in Vancouver. Some friends of hers took that training program. They thought it was great. They got her into it. And she worked her way up in the organization to the point that she was like the top recruiter. You know, she would bring her friends in, she would bring her family in, and she started kind of growing Nexium in the Vancouver Center. And then like her story takes this weird turn. I started reading this book months ago, but I had to put it down because it was too triggering. Like it was reminding me of what I experienced in the Nithyananda cult in India.
Why is it that people they're so able to be brainwashed by these people, you think?
I really think that what makes somebody a good candidate to get brainwashed is that they've had a glimpse of something beyond our day-to-day reality. Like you had that out-of-body experience. Like somebody will have either a lucid dream or a clairvoyant vision or an out-of-body experience, or a really common one is when somebody you love passes away and then you get a dream of them or a vision of them. when you've had a glimpse of something more than this reality, but you don't know what it means, so you start looking for answers. You might not realize it, but in those moments, you are so vulnerable to influence that if somebody tells you, yes, this is what it is, I have the answer, you're ready to listen to anything they have to tell you. And that can be a really good thing if you find somebody who maybe has a background in psychology in a good way, like they're there to help. But when you find these narcissistic cult leaders, they just want to take advantage, like, like this person will believe anything I tell them. If I tell them like God wants them to sell their car and give me the money, they'll do it. And that's what these assholes do. And like it's not just Nithyananda, it's not just Keith Raniere, it's not just what's his face who's running Scientology, David Miscavige. Like these people exist in all walks of life. Some of them have huge followings, some of them don't really. But when you come across a really authoritative person, meaning somebody who whenever they tell you something, they've got this confidence in their speaking that implies that there is no other opinion. Like what they say is the ultimate truth.
And he's dressed in these robes and garments.
Yeah. Or sometimes not. Like I saw this one hilarious, I think it was on CNN. Like it was like an actual mainstream news channel. And they're describing Keith Raniere, who is leading that NXIVM cult. And the first thing they said was like, he is not what I expected him to look like. Like his followers all call him Vanguard, and they keep his pictures up in their places, and they basically worship him. But he's just a doughy dweeb in a tracksuit. Like they were super blinged out like the way Nithyananda did. I'm sorry?
I'll be back 2 seconds.
Sure. It's funny because we're on his channel and he's leaving the room. It's kind of like being a student at school and the teacher is gone. So now we can act up and do anything.
Commercial break.
I also got this. I'm selling at kiatbit.ca. I can customize it for you. Put in any 2 words y'all want. This is tachyon.
It protects you from
Prevents you from 5
anti-radiation, 5 protects you from EMFs. That way you can keep your vibration up, and when you keep your vibration up, you actually manifest things into your life quicker. Go to our website kiepic.ca so that way you can learn more about this tachyon Key Epic anti-radiation pendant. I recommend everybody have theirs. I wear mine. Oh, I'm gonna wear mine my whole life, man.
Yeah, I had a few more questions to ask you.
Sure.
I appreciate you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure.
I wanted to ask you, and first and foremost, I appreciate you sharing those sensitive topics, because I understand as well when people are receptive to being brainwashed, like you said, how you mentioned they try and make themselves like authoritative. I understand in the dreams where you said when you had a dream about something and then you feel like it's destined, this and that.
Yeah.
I understand. I recently came to my own perspective recently that the only thing that's real is our own perspectives. That's the only thing that's real. So it's not, oh, I had a dream about this. Okay, maybe it's destined. No. You have the ability to choose, okay, I saw this perspective. Am I willing to go with it? And I recently came to this conclusion through meditation. But oftentimes us as humans, we feel like, oh, let me go into this fairy tale because it feels so good. Let me choose that perspective.
Yes.
So again, you're able to choose that perspective because, yeah, it feels good to me. And so let me go along with it because it feels good. But no, it's not destined. At the end of the day, reality is malleable. We get to choose what we get to decide, what path we get to choose. And so I came to that conclusion through meditation. And so I appreciate you sharing me, because at one point I was like, I was like what you're saying, and like going along with people's
Yeah.
perspectives, whether it was someone trying to lie to me by saying, "Oh, I'm your soulmate," this and that.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, we're all soulmates. We all have a soul.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a soulmate. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
There's
Exactly.
no such thing.
Yeah. A lot of like the cult that I was in, it was really based on enlightenment, so that there was no manipulation as far as like soulmates goes. But I've heard from survivors of like kind of more new agey cults that the biggest pull that they suck in followers is by saying you'll find your twin flame or you'll find your soulmate. And to me, that's like the biggest spiritual bullshit out there right now, because like it immediately makes a person feel like they're not enough, like they're incomplete. Like as soon as these like cult leaders say that you are half of a flame and that the other half of your soul is out there and do this and do that to attract them, like the shit that they do to themselves and to others is just terrible. Like if they're in a relationship, they suddenly put all this pressure on the other person to be this like spiritual other half. Or if they're single, they feel this like compulsion that they have to find somebody. And that's really traumatic for people. Like I got into this channel after I left the Nithyananda cult, and I started like it took me a good year to process everything that I had been through and to feel confident enough to speak out against them, because dude, like when you decide to expose a cult, you become their target for all kinds of terrible things. Like I have friends in India who have left, who have had thugs show up at their door to beat them up. Wow. Somebody actually hung himself, and there's a conspiracy theory among ex-followers that goons sent from the cult forced him to, because they had been told to, like, if anybody leaves, make them kill themselves. But in my case, because I'm in Canada, like, we're lucky here that we're basically untouchable when it comes to harassment from cult organizations, because we have rights. Like, they can't just show up at our door and beat us, because they will go to prison. They can't pay off a cop here the way they can pay off like the anyway. But when I decided to finally speak out against that cult, I started going on like tons of podcasts from people who also came out of cults. Like my favorite was Ron Miscavige, he's the father of David Miscavige, who's the leader of Scientology. And like he used to be a Scientologist, obviously, because like his son is running the whole damn thing. But he was telling me some things about how Scientology would attract followers. And just like getting back to your older question, I'm sorry if I'm taking us off topic a bit.
No, not a problem at all. I'm enjoying it. Cool.
Like you had said, like, what makes somebody vulnerable to a cult? Well, Ron Miscavige said that when it came to Scientology, they would tell people, like, if you have any stress in your life, we'll take away that stress and you can achieve your goals with a total focus and total clarity. And they don't know when they go into that free seminar to de-stress their lives that the next step is going to be a $500 weekend program, and then after that it's going to be like a $5,000 sign-up fee, and then after that it's like $100,000 a year for life. And he also had said that like he was a jazz musician. He used to play like with all the greats, and they had told him in Scientology, like, bring your instruments. You can perform whenever you want. You can record whenever you want. We'll bring in other artists for you to collaborate with. But that's like a carrot that they dangle. Like once he was actually living there, he had to do grunt work. Oh, like, yeah, shoveling dirt, manual labor. He was like a 60-year-old man at the time, and they had him doing like heavy manual labor. And so he was saying that when it came to Scientology, they would recruit people in by promising them what they know those people like. And once the people are there, maybe for like the first month, it's going to be awesome. But once they've made the commitment, once they've let go of their safety net, like sold their house or rented a place in the cult's compound, that's when things start to turn and they get treated like shit.
That's horrible.
And the same thing happened to me in the Nithyananda cult. There's a thing that cult leaders do called love bombing, which is basically like when there's a person they want in their cult, they will shower that person with praise. Like they will make that person feel like the prodigal son who they're trying to get back. Like the leader, I like to call him Nithyananda with an M instead of an N because that means impermanent, not permanent. But he would send me these like Facebook Messenger messages just telling me about his day. Like, oh, dear, today I gave a discourse about blah, blah, blah. Did you watch it? And then he would ask me, like, what do you want me to talk about, sweetie? Like, what should I talk about? So I started sending him ideas.
Calling you all these sweet names.
Oh, yeah. All the sweet names. Sweetie, dear. He would call me Shakti, which is like the consort of Shiva. So he really made me feel like that one special person to him. I didn't know that, like, behind the scenes, he's doing this to all the girls in his organization. So it's like each of them felt like she was that one special somebody. Because he would tell us, don't tell anybody else about these conversations. It's just for you. It's private. It's just between us. But what really sucked me in was I told him about fluoride, which was like your initial reason for this interview. And so sure enough, he did the research, and the next day he gave a full discourse about water fluoridation and switching to like reverse osmosis filtered water. And like some of the things I had said in my YouTube videos about that, he started quoting verbatim in his discourses. And then I sent him a message saying, like back then I called him Swami G. Now I call him Scammy G because he wasn't a real Swami. But I told him like my biggest passion in life, like the thing I feel the strongest about is veganism. And I told him like as a South Indian Hindu, like you say that you love cows and you say that you are ahimsa, like living a non-violent life. And I told him, like, just look at these links I'm going to send you. So I sent him some links to show factory farms for dairy, like how cows are actually treated, how calves are killed, like within a couple of days of their lives so that the farmers can take the milk. And then I sent this, like, because I do my research. I'm a researcher. So I found a Hindu scripture that says, like, basically destruction will come to those who steal the milk from the calf, like who steal the mother's milk from the calf. And so I said basically like anybody who's drinking milk, unless the calf is like alive and healthy and well and with the mother and drinking its fill and unharmed, those people can't be considered ahimsa. Like there's no such thing as pure veg if somebody's not vegan. And lo and behold, the next day he gave a full discourse stating that the original intention for people was to be vegan. And like for 5 years before that, he told people be vegetarian, but drink milk, eat curd rice, have yogurt, have this, have that.
You're over there to learn from him. Meanwhile, he's over there using your topics to make you feel good. Bomb, right?
Exactly. And I mean, I'm happy if it spreads veganism like that. I kind of felt like I was achieving my goal. So the way he got me to give up my life in Canada and go to India and effectively destroy my life for a few years by being in his cult is that he told me that if I moved there and took sannyas, like put on the orange robe, and became a brahmacharini in his organization, he said that he guarantees I will be able to make 1 million people vegan, and that eventually we will destroy the dairy industry and the meat industry. And for me, like that sounded like the ultimate. That's what I've always wanted. I should have been following somebody like Billie Eilish instead, because she's done more for the animals in like 3 years than that fucker did for them in his entire so-called mission. Pardon my language.
I eat meat, but recently I've been like figuring out ways to get full, because the purpose of meat is to get full, right? The purpose of protein is it fills you up. So I recently figured out like peanut butter could fill you up, because that's like any type of protein fills you up. So
Yeah.
when it comes to getting protein, what makes you get filled up as a vegan?
Well, first, like, good for you for looking for other things to start having instead. For me, like, my favorite go-to meal is whole wheat pasta with like a tofu stir fry. I marinate tofu in like a mixture of soy sauce and I mean, I'm not gonna turn this into a cooking vlog where I tell you all my recipes. I can
No, you don't
send you.
have to. I'm just wondering what makes you full, because
Yeah.
vegetables raise your vibration, because
Yeah.
it's a living thing, and it makes your energy high, and when your energy is high, you manifest things in your life quicker. So
For
that's
sure.
how it made my interest.
Yeah. In
But
fact, I
oftentimes
would
will still
highly
eat
like
meat,
I
but
challenge you to go vegan for a month
uh,
and see what happens, because the vision I had of Kali that I told you about like in our last live session, that happened in September of the year 2000. And I went vegan in the summer, like July, August of that year. So it was within like 3 months of me totally cutting all animal products out of my diet that I had my first really profound spiritual vision. And it's there in the Hindu scriptures. Like, I know a lot of people shit on the caste system because it sucks to lump people into categories of, or a hierarchy of beings. I don't think anybody is born Brahmin or born Shudra or born untouchable. Like, I think you are what you make yourself. Like how you said, we all have our free will and the world is malleable. But it's in the scriptures that the Brahmin diet is pure vegetarian. And like, if you consume the dead body of an animal, all the pain, all the suffering, all the fear that being experienced when it was killed is entering you. You're consuming that. So like when you look at vibrations, like, have you seen those water crystals? Dr. Emoto's study of, yeah. Like if you speak positive intentions into water and then freeze it, it makes these beautiful like prismatic snowflake sort of formations. And if you curse at it or play it like some negative tune, it just looks deformed, right? Well, if that's how water reacts, how do you think an animal reacts when it's forced into a slaughterhouse and it smells the blood of other animals and it hears like the wails and the screams and suddenly people are punching it and kicking it and pushing it and forcing it to go to its death? When you eat that, think of the vibrations you're consuming. Like if you don't even want to drink fluoridated water, like shit, dude, the hormones that they pump into farmed animals, the terrible conditions, all the pandemics. Like, look at, we wouldn't be in lockdown right now. We wouldn't be fearful of catching this like horribly deadly virus if it weren't for the wet markets in China where people eat animals. Mad cow disease happened because of the farming practice. Bird flu, swine flu, like there's never been a tofu pandemic. There's never been like a lettuce fiasco where like, oh shit, dude, you ate lettuce in China, like we're doomed.
That's fun.
Yeah, but it's true. It's true too. And like how you asked, how do I get full as a vegan? It's so funny because
that was really funny what you said.
Yeah. Well, it's funny to think about because like it's so natural to me now because I've been vegan for over 20 years and I went vegetarian when I was like 8. So
wow.
I mean, things
That
are
was your own
vegan.
choice to go vegan
Yeah.
at 8?
Vegetarian.
You want to do that?
I'm sorry?
What made you want to do that at 8 years old?
Well, I'm from Alberta, which is like Canada's Texas, right? And my uncle moved to this small town called Consort, which is like pretty far north from where I lived. And my mom and I were on a road trip to go visit him. And we did this thing, like my mom was always a healthy eater, but whenever we went on a road trip, we'd get McDonald's. And so that would be like a treat for me as a kid. We'd go through the McDonald's drive-through. And so I got my Happy Meal, and we were driving along on this country highway. And my mom said, like, when we see a picnic area, we'll pull over and eat lunch. Mm-hmm. And at one point, like, some farmer's gate had been left open, so there were cows wandering all over the highway. And when I say highway, I mean like it was barely a step up from a dirt road. Like this was a really rural area. And so my mom said, you know what, like there's cows blocking the road. We might as well eat our lunch now instead of waiting for a picnic area. So, you know, we unpacked. I pulled out my burger and my fries, and I was about to take a bite when I looked out the window. And there was this calf, like this baby cow, walking up towards my window. It's so funny that as I'm telling this story, somebody named Nandi joined, and Nandi is like Shiva's bull, his cow. It's auspicious timing. But like I'm about to take a bite of this burger, and I'm looking out the window, and I see this adorable looking calf. And for the first time, I just thought, like, wait a minute, what is this burger? Like I knew intellectually that meat comes from animals and that that's why there are farms. But I wondered, like back then I was still innocent, right? I was 8 years old, I might have even been 7. I was really young, grade 2. I still believed animals died of natural causes. And then the farmers would take their bodies and make it into meat. And I didn't realize the animals were murdered, like were killed for people to eat. So I asked my mom, like, okay, this farmer left his gate open. If one of these cows, like, dies out here, how will the farmer find its body to make it into meat? And my mom just laughed at me. And it's like, it sounds so callous now because she's also vegetarian now.
Wow.
But she laughed at me and she said, well, the farmer doesn't find a dead cow's body and then make it into meat. The farmer kills the cow. And I just froze. Like I hadn't taken a bite of my burger yet. I just wrapped it back up and put it in the bag, and I started crying, and I said, wait a minute, like, are you saying these animals aren't allowed to grow up? Like I was looking at that little calf out my window, and I said, so one day, like, somebody is going to kill him and turn him into meat? And she said, oh yeah, usually when the animal's about 2 years old, that's when they get slaughtered. And I said, well, what's slaughter? And she told me that there's this like big building they take all the animals to, and one by one they kill them, and then they process them. And I just said to her, sorry, again, my cat is all over me. I just said to her, like, then I'm never going to eat meat again. And she said, like, no daughter of mine is going to be vegetarian. Like, what am I going to cook for you? I don't know what to do. Like, that's, and I told her, well, I'm not saying I'm going to be vegetarian. I'm just saying I'm not going to eat meat anymore. Because I didn't know what the word vegetarian meant. I thought it was like another religion or something. But yeah, that's why I went vegetarian. And then
that's
it
a crazy story.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
what made your mom turn vegetarian?
The same thing. The same thing. Actually, like I used to pester her to go vegetarian when I was a kid. And like when I went vegan when I was 13, she refused to cook for me. So I would take my babysitting money and I would buy groceries. Like I'd walk to the grocery store, buy tofu, buy beans, buy rice, buy whatever I needed, and I would cook my own food. And it was a really difficult time in my relationship with my mom when I first went vegan, because she was so terribly afraid that I would become malnourished or vitamin deficient or like something bad would happen. And this was back in, like, this was 1999, 2000 era. So people didn't really know the word vegan back then, right? But I did a shitload of research. Like, I found this group called Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And it's a group of doctors who have studied nutrition. And they show the decreased chance of heart disease, the decrease of cholesterol in people who are vegan, and just the overwhelming benefits of a vegan diet. And of course, you have to balance, like, you have to make sure you're getting all the necessary nutrients. So, for example, there's good fats and bad fats. And a lot of people say that vegans have poor brain development because they're not getting enough of the good fats, the essential fatty acids. But that's it. It's there in avocado. It's there in coconut oil. It's there in peanut butter. It's there in sunflower seeds. Like, the stuff
What's
that we
that
eat.
called? Omega-3 you're talking about?
Exactly. Omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids. You get all the omega fatty acids you need. For example, if you take a tablespoon of flax seeds, grind it up and add it to a smoothie. Or like it's winter here. It's been cold as heck here in Alberta. So I've been making oatmeal in the mornings. And like you asked, like, how do you feel full on a vegan diet? Best breakfast ever is like you mix like a cup of instant oats or rolled oats, like if you want to get fancy and you have time to cook, but a cup of oats and add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a handful of frozen blueberries, a splash of maple syrup, and then boiling water, and just make that. That gives you, oh, and I always add walnuts to mine. The combination of walnuts and flaxseed gives you the omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids that your brain development needs. The oats are high in protein, and so is walnut. It's a myth that meat is the highest protein food on the planet. Like, actually, stuff like tempeh, seitan, like there are vegetable sources of protein that are even better, like even higher in protein. And like, if you haven't seen it already, watch that Netflix documentary, The Game Changers, because they can give you the facts better than I can. I'm just paraphrasing stuff I've learned over the years. But I can tell you, like,
what do you usually eat to get full? Because it is very difficult for someone transitioning from meat to, what do you call it, is it a vegetarian? It's very difficult. So what are some quick tips you give to someone if they wanted to transition? Because if they're not getting full, they're going to go right back to eating meat.
First tip is eat a variety of foods. Like, there's a beautiful study of nutrition and food in India called Ayurveda. And in Ayurveda, they describe that the reason people still feel hungry after eating a meal, it's not because their stomach is empty. It's because they haven't activated their full sense of taste. And so in Ayurvedic eating, I'm serious. In Ayurvedic eating, when your meal has something sweet, something sour, something salty, something bitter, and something bland, and something spicy, like when you get every possible flavor in a meal, you'll feel full after you eat it. And so there's foods that don't sound like they would be super filling, like tamarind rice, for example, that when you eat it, you feel so full afterwards. And it's because nutritionally it's giving you protein, because there's dal in it. There's like, what's dal in English? Shit, those lentils. It has lentils and rice. So when you
lentils is protein. That makes you full.
Exactly. It makes you full. And like, anytime you mix a grain with a pulse, like peanut butter by itself won't make you full, and bread by itself won't make you full, but if you have a peanut butter sandwich, it'll make you feel full. But yeah, for somebody transitioning, I recommend, like, instead of a burger, have a Beyond Meat burger. Like, you can still eat the same foods you've always loved, but in a vegan version. So try like a Beyond Meat burger. You can try like, my favorite thing at Thanksgiving is tofurkey. It comes in this little box, and it's like a vegetable based protein, but you cook it kind of like a turkey, and it has stuffing in it like a turkey. Have that with your mashed potatoes and your steamed broccoli and whatever else you'd eat at the holidays. Like, find substitutes.
You're lagging. You're lagging. Try and stay still so it'll get you back.
Yeah. I'm sorry, can you hear me? It looks like the screen has frozen.
Oh yeah, just try and stay still so it won't get blurry.
Okay.
Try and stay still.
Okay.
The more you move it, it gets blurry. It's all good.
Okay.
It'll come back.
It's because my tripod only works for landscape style, not portrait style. That's why I have to hold this thing in my hand.
I see. So you're saying eat lentils? Yeah, I ate lentils. That thing's a lot of protein. You're right.
Yeah, lentils, chickpeas, beans of every kind. And if you have them with like quinoa or brown rice, that will also increase the amount of protein. Instead of a beef burger, have a Beyond Meat burger. It's equal in protein. It will make you feel just as full. I love making like spaghetti or pasta. Pasta is one of the most filling foods in the world. So you can make yourself spaghetti, and instead of a meat sauce, take like this stuff called Veggie Ground Round. It's Eve's brand, Veggie Ground Round. Mix that in with the tomato sauce, and it's exactly like a meat sauce, and very filling.
What type of pasta do you use?
I usually go for the whole wheat stuff, like whole wheat spaghetti, whole wheat penne, whole wheat fusilli. It's a little bit more nutritious than white pasta, and tastes just as good.
I see.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, have you ever tried any psychedelics, mushrooms, or ayahuasca to open up your pineal gland?
Not to open my pineal gland, but when I was in my early 20s, I did try mushrooms a couple of times. I think like my high school graduation party was the first time I tried psilocybin mushrooms with one of my good friends. I almost dropped her name, and I don't think she'd want that now because she's a mother of 4 and married and very conservative, but I've only ever had good trips when I've tried that. And I've also tried DMT once when I was 22, and it was very cool. But the vision of Kali that I had completely sober when I was 13 just by meditating, that was more psychedelic, so to speak. Like, to me, that was better than any drug-induced experience.
I see.
And with
most definitely, because that was a natural.
Yeah, exactly.
Your picture is gone. Your picture is like blurred. It's like froze.
I'm sorry.
Can I log you out and bring you back in?
Sure.
I see you. I see you now.
Okay.
I guess when you move a lot, it gets blurry.
Yeah, I think the other problem is I was on my phone data this whole time, so I just switched to my Wi-Fi. I think that'll be a better connection.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was just asking, what did you see when you were on when you tried DMT?
Oh, it was crazy. Like, as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw this, like, have you ever seen the paintings of Alex Gray?
No, I've never.
Ooh, Google it. Google it, because you don't even need to try anything trippy. You just look at his painting, and that's what people see. Or that's what I saw anyway. It was like this grid of light that was moving, and I could somehow tell that this light was conscious. It's very hard to describe in words because
I've seen Alex Gray. I see it right now.
Yeah.
Let me show you. I've seen this on a book cover, DMT. There's a book cover called DMT.
Yeah, the spirit molecule. Yeah. Exactly, exactly. So I didn't see it in those like bright blues and bright reds. What I saw was like, um, I can't even put it in words because there are no words in English for it. But it was like this web of light made up of colors that I've never seen before in my waking state or in my normal state. They were like, ugh, it's gonna sound so strange, but they were like bright pastel.
I see.
You know how like pastel is like a muted light kind of a color? They were like that, but so vibrant. It's funny, I've got this little journal here that one of my friends from Vancouver gave me. See like the colors here? Imagine like this kind of a pattern, but made entirely of light and like geometrically symmetrical. You know, like when you look into what's that thing called? A kaleidoscope? How like everything is like perfectly mirror reflective symmetrical. I saw like something kind of like this, but fully symmetrical and made out of light.
Why do you think people see that?
I really think that there is like a simultaneous plane of existence that exists alongside our reality. It's just as real as our 3D like physical world, but that we just don't have the capacity to see or access it. And I think that when we consume these shamanic sort of substances, that opens the key within ourselves to be able to perceive this other existent reality. Like I don't think that there's anything weird and mystical and spiritual about. I think it really is legit reality. We just don't have the advancement in science yet to be able to recognize it or define it or study it. So I think that there have been people in different cultures throughout the centuries who have been able to tap into it. And I think meditation is the best way to tap into it. And for sure, like eating a vegan diet will help tune into that kind of reality, because the heaviness of the meat and like the negative hormones of the animals consumed along with the meat won't be weighing a person down anymore. And of course, fluoridated water will limit that. So having properly filtered water is good. But
How do you usually meditate?
for me, my favorite way to meditate is to just sit down with my legs in half Padmasana, like one leg over the other, not like totally locked, and just close my eyes and start breathing really deeply. I don't do any kind of specific pranayama, but I'll breathe in as deeply as I can for as long as I can. Then I like to hold my breath for as long as I can. Then exhale as slowly as possible, and then hold my lungs empty for as long as I can. And I know like there's different Vedic meditations that specify like 7-second inhale, 7 seconds, hold your breath, 7 seconds, exhale. But I always feel like I'm just out of breath when I try that. Like I inhale usually for like 20 seconds and then hold my lungs full for like a good 20 seconds.
It's a long time.
Yeah. But I guess like I don't smoke, I don't vape, I don't do anything like that. So lung capacity health is a big deal when it comes to meditation.
So the key is to just relax and just access higher awareness.
Yeah, relax, breathe deeply. Don't have any expectations. I think like a lot of people hold themselves back because they'll think, you know, now I'm going to see a visionary realm, or, you know, I'm going to feel the bliss of existence fill me. Like, don't put the kind of pressure on yourself by expecting anything. Just be open to see what's going to happen. I really feel like the vision I had of Kali, part of the reason that that happened was that my decision at the beginning of that meditation was to just gaze into darkness and see. I didn't want to look for something. It's not like I was thinking like, let's see what's there. It was more like just look into it and relax and just allow it to be there. Um,
I think Abraham Hicks said just enjoy it.
yeah, exactly. Just enjoy it.
So she said just enjoy feeling as if it's already here. Just enjoy it. Don't have any expectations. Just enjoy what you
Yeah,
see. Just enjoy the feeling. That's what she said. So that's all I did. And so
yeah,
now after I seen the vision, I do, as you said, go into it with expectations. What am I gonna see next? And then I
yeah.
go into it in like a scared sense. Am I gonna leave my body again?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's what would happen to me when I was a teenager too, because like I would try to avoid meditating. I would try to distract myself from that state, by I probably had mad insomnia but just didn't realize it. Like I would read books voraciously. Like I would always keep my nightlight on and read until I fell asleep. Um of course, like I'm 35 years old. So when I was a teenager, there were no cell phones or laptops. So the only thing I had to distract myself with were books and sketchbooks and stuff. But yeah, I would so fear that unknown that I would avoid ever being silent with myself. And I think a lot of people still are afraid of that kind of stuff. Like I've heard from total skeptics, like people who say, there's no such thing as supernatural influences, like there's no higher power, there's no this, there's no that. And then you ask them, like, hey, would you run downstairs and grab me a glass of water and say, oh, but it's dark down there? Like people people have this like innate fear of the unknown, and that will kind of manifest as a scary meditation, because when you start feeling like a vibration pulling you from your body, you'll think something's getting me or something's killing me. Or if you have like a really photorealistic kind of a dream, like I think of it as like a 5D dream where like you're hearing things and you're seeing things and you're physically feeling them, where suddenly it's a frightening experience.
I
Um,
see.
but yeah, that kind of blocks all the positive energy that can come from meditation. Like if you're afraid of what you might see, then nothing good can reach you, you know?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The time when I accidentally astral projected, I was listening to a meditation music called binaural beats, and it's
Oh
after
yeah.
I was done meditating, I read it. It said, "Warning: you
Yeah.
might leave your body. You
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
astral project or have an outer body experience." I didn't read the warning until after.
Isn't that awesome? And to me, like that's the proof that something like this is real. Like when if somebody reads that warning and then experiences it, they might be able to explain it away by saying, I imagined that because that's what I expected. But if you just like jump into something with no expectation and then something like that happens, that's like yeah, it served its purpose. Um,
Yeah,
I also want to say, like, my other favorite meditation is drawing, and I recommend this to everybody. Like, where's my here?
you're really good at drawing. I've seen them,
Yeah, I've got my sketchbook right here, but like,
and you're also into crystals.
yeah, you can see I've even got my crystal posters behind me.
What's your favorite crystal?
My favorite, oh God, I love all of them. I think Moldavite might be my favorite as far as like a stone that takes people into a deeper meditative state. Um, I love black opal just because it's such a cool looking stone. I'm wearing one right now. I don't know if the camera can pick up on it, but
I see it.
I think the lighting is bad in here, but from some angles it looks like there's like aurora borealis or like northern lights in it.
Why do you like
Um,
Moldavite? It connects you to aliens out here.
yeah, that's why I like Moldavite.
Yeah?
I know, like a lot of people think it's silly that these stones just have a I don't know, like a placebo effect on people, but I've had enough experiences in my life that I believe in them. Um, it's been a really strange process for me over the last, I would say, year and a half, because when I left that destructive cult in India and came back to the real world, a lot of the podcasts that I did were held by people who left other cults like Scientology or Teal Swan's group. But they've moved from kind of being open and interested in all this mystical stuff to a space where like they were so exploited and mistreated by so-called spiritual people that they've become completely skeptical about all of it. And so that made me kind of start questioning everything, like, well, wait a minute, like if all of this is just like hokum, like if it's all just a placebo effect stupidity, you know what I mean? Like I started questioning everything that I love. And it's been a very recent process, only since I started journaling again, that, and I recommend journaling for people too, anybody who is interested in self-development and meditation and growth. Keep a journal and write down your feelings and write down what you want and what you're doing and what you like and what's happening, because when you look back at that, you know that it's a solidified reality for you. Like you had said earlier when we were talking, that when you had your vision, the first thing you did was write it down because it happened in like another plane of consciousness, and that your waking mind might not remember it if you don't write it down. I think journaling is the best thing that somebody can do. Like after you meditate, write down what you felt in that meditation, or what you saw, or what you heard, or what you experienced. If you're making the transition to going vegan and you eat a meal and you feel really full and satiated and good afterwards, write it down, because then other times if you're still feeling hungry after you eat, you remember, wait, this is something that can be like a go-to. But yeah, when I started keeping a journal again, I had this like flood of memories of, for example, like visions I had with crystals and different spiritual awakenings I had by like the first time I ever held Moldavite. Dude, I don't know. You might want to hear another spiritual experience story if you like this kind of stuff.
These stories are amazing.
Okay, cool.
What happened with Moldavite?
Thank you. Yeah, stop me if I ever start babbling, because I am a nerd for this stuff. Like I can talk for hours.
Not at all. I'm enjoying hearing your stories.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, with Moldavite, like at the time I was living in Vancouver, and I found this book called Moldavite, Starborn Stone of Transformation. And I bought that book, and I decided, like, I have to get myself some Moldavite. Like, I have to feel this stone for myself and, you know, find out what it does. So I went to like every crystal store in Vancouver, and there were a ton even back then. So like I tried the Crystal Arc and Amethyst Creations and Banyan Books, and they were all sold out. Like none of them had Moldavite. So I was like super disappointed. And then like a couple of months went by, and one morning I woke up, it was my day off. I had planned like to just stay home and draw all day, because like if I don't have to go out, like I don't want to do my makeup or get dressed. Like I just want to have my pajamas on and like draw. But something, and it wasn't a voice, and it wasn't like I saw a vision of somebody. It's just like something told me, like, go to the Crystal Arc right now. So I got dressed and I decided to walk. Like it was a nice day, not raining for once in Vancouver. So I walked to Granville Island and I walked into the Crystal Arc. And as soon as I opened the door, this lady named Christine, who was the manager there, she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, Sarah, I see the Moldavite."
Christine for a crystal shop.
Yeah, Christine at the crystal shop. But she just looked at me and said, "Wow, Sarah, I see that you've heard the call of the Moldavite and you're here to answer it." And I was like, "Whoa, what?" And she just like held up this box of stuff she was unpacking and said, like, "Just today we got a new shipment of Moldavite in."
Wow.
And like she showed me like her little book on the desk. She picked up this this black book of customer phone numbers and said, like, check this out, like, you're top of the list. I was going to call you as soon as it's all unpacked and priced, but like, you heard the call. And like back then I was working at DKNY, so it was a super worldly job.
How'd she know? That's what she came for.
Because she was a psychic too. She was such a cool lady. Yeah. This girl, like, I wish I was still in contact with her. I ran into her about 3 or 4 years ago at this rock and gem show in Calgary. And she gave me her business card, but I've gone through so many purses since then that I've lost it. But she was very intuitive. And yeah, she did things like she plays the crystal bowls. Like, she has these giant selenite bowls that she would play. And she's very talented. Like, she's good at what she does. So like you were talking about listening to that specific music, that'll take you into that state. Like, that's the kind of music she would make.
Oh,
but
she made
yeah.
What makes someone very intuitive?
That's a good question. I don't know. For me personally, I feel that when we're not constantly bombarding ourselves with external information deliberately, we're intuitive because we're open to the kinds of subtle information that come to us, in every moment. Like, what I mean is, when I would walk to work or when I would walk to school, I would never have headphones with music. I would just walk in total silence, because that's when the best ideas would come to me. And to this day, like, I get my best ideas when I'm out for a walk. And that's my favorite exercise too, going for like a long, I'm talking like 5-6 kilometer walks, like just being in nature. I think what makes somebody intuitive is when they're listening to their surroundings. It's so hard to put into words, but like, if you've got your headphones on and you're listening to music, that music is filling you. There's no room for anything else to come in. Or if you're at home and you've got like the TV on in the background, you're distracting yourself from your own thoughts and from your own inner wisdom. So if you turn off that TV, like if you get rid of that background noise, that's when, like, not only you get your best ideas, but also you can be accessed by other things. Like, so that morning when I woke up in Vancouver and I was ready to just make myself a soy latte and sit there and draw, but I felt like, no, like, get up, get dressed, go to the crystal arc. How is it that I was receptive to that message and intuitive to know? It's because I always keep myself in a space of silence. I think silence speaks to us more profoundly than noise ever could. When we learn to listen to that silence, that's when we start to hear the ultimate truths. And so I think Christine at the Crystal Arc, she was in that same silent space. And yeah, when I bought that piece of Moldavite, like, as soon as I held it for the first time, I felt this like tingle in the palm of my hand, like where the Moldavite was held. And then this like warm, tingly sensation just moved up my arm. And wow. I haven't felt that with any other kind of stone, only with Moldavite. And people will sometimes say like they don't feel crystal energy, or like they hear people say like rose quartz feels loving and amethyst feels spiritual and this and that, but they don't personally feel it. I would challenge those people, like, just go hold a piece of Moldavite with no expectation, just see what happens. I guess I've spoiled it by saying it feels tingly, but whatever, like, go feel it for yourself. It's pretty cool. And that night I was going to take the bus home again from Granville Island. And instead of taking the bus, I decided to walk. And on my walk home, there was this store on Main Street and Broadway that had just opened called Wet Wizard Used Books. Hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Like, before that,
I'm tell you about that energy thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I wore this Mexican amethyst at like a time where I was like in very negative energy state. As soon as I wore that amethyst, it like sucked up all the negative energy, holded it. And I
Yeah.
felt like so happy and positive just
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
around with this crystal on me. And it was a Mexican amethyst. It looks just like this one. It looks
Nice.
just like this, but
Yeah.
it's rare. Only the Mexican amethyst ones
Yeah.
spike up like that. I've been trying to get a hold of one ever since.
Oh,
Cause
wow.
like it
Yeah.
fell out of the wrap that it was in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been trying to get a hold of one ever since. Ever since I lost it. But yeah, it was an expensive one.
Yeah, you should search Veracruz Amethyst. I think it's from Brazil. The Veracruz mine, like it's all ethically mined. And it has a beautiful, like the cluster you held up, I think that was angel aura quartz. The Veracruz mine, it does come in that same form. You can find it.
Let me write that down.
Yeah, Veracruz. I wish I had some in stock. I would show it to you right now, but I don't have any. But yeah, I'm sure you can find some in Toronto. There's lots of crystal stores there too. But yeah, like
I live in Toronto.
I did for a year, but I'm back in Alberta.
I see.
But yeah, that's
what were you gonna say? Your train of thought.
Yeah, I wanted to finish telling you this Moldavite story because it to me this was it was a real turning point in my life. Like what they say about Moldavite, they say that when you start wearing Moldavite, all the negative things in your life that are kind of trapping you start to fall away. And the things that you're really meant to be doing start to manifest. So if you're in a bad relationship, say you're in like a very negative relationship, somebody who's just always criticizing you or you're always fighting with them, when you start wearing Moldavite, that relationship might come to an end. Or if you're working in a toxic workplace, you might get fired from your job. So a lot of people, when they start using Moldavite, they think that it really sucks because like it shakes up their lives and suddenly they're losing their partner and they're losing their job and they have to move to a new place because they've lost their apartment. But on the flip side, it also brings you into the more harmonious things that you're meant to be doing. I'm sorry that I can't keep my camera still because
I'm gonna have to get me one then.
You should get yourself some Moldavite. The first time I ever wore a piece, that day after I went to the Crystal Arc and I got my Moldavite, I was walking home, and when I was at the bus stop, like right when I was about to catch the bus, I looked into the sky and I saw the clearing in the clouds. You know when the clouds start to part and you see the moon? And like you hadn't seen the moon before that night because it was a cloudy sky, but like the clouds moved just in time to see it. That happened, and the clouds made the shape of a face. And the moon, it was a full moon. It was exactly in the spot of the third eye. And like I was staring at that thinking, am I having a vision? Like, is this the Moldavite? Like, or do other people see this? So I was at Broadway in Granville at the 99B line bus stop, and I just like called out into the crowd of UBC students and like business people. It was like maybe 6:30 in the evening. I just called out like, hey, like look at the sky. Do you guys see that too? Like I was so amazed that I didn't know whether this was real or if it was something I was just seeing because I was in that meditative state. And then like this one businessman, he's like a Vancouver stereotypical briefcase and suit. He just went like, whoa, like the moon is the third eye. And then I was like, okay, cool. Like that's really there in the sky. It's not just me.
What was your favorite thing to eat that could decalcify the third eye?
The only thing I've heard of that can decalcify the third eye is turmeric. Turmeric with ground black pepper. But yeah, let me finish this story. I'm just about done. Just about done. So I decided to walk home.
About Moldavite.
Yeah. I decided to walk home after seeing that like vision in the sky of like the clouds making a face and the moon is there as the third eye. And on my way home, I just popped into this secondhand bookstore that I'd never gone into before. And I pulled like the first book off the shelf that I found and just opened it to a random page. And an illustration on that page showed a sky with clouds making a face and a full moon in the
Wow.
space of the third eye. Like the same exact thing I had just seen in the sky. And the
That's like a
title,
coincidence.
I know,
What a
right? Like,
coincidence.
yeah, these are the kinds of spiritual coincidences that they call synchronicities because like how could you explain it? Like I was just going to stay home that day, but I wanted Moldavite, went to the crystal store, they had it, walked up to the bus stop, saw this amazing thing in the sky, walked into a random bookstore, opened a book, and that picture is on the page. That book was actually the companion book to the Osho Zen tarot deck. And the illustration was for the card called Silence. And
Wow.
so like the whole thing about silence being able to speak to you and being able to hear it, I really think that's the ultimate key to meditation is like look at nothingness and listen to silence.
Wow.
And it sounds like a cliched Zen aphorism, but those things become cliched because they're real. Like close your eyes and just look and have no sound in the room. Like turn off all the sounds, close your door and just listen. And it's in those moments that I think the highest truth can reach you.
It's like a very, very amazing story that you just told me. I apologize for like cutting you off at
Oh, that's
places.
okay. That's okay. No, I like it.
It was amazing. It's like you were in such a flow state that you manifested everything you wanted that day.
Exactly. And like even the way I started reading tarot cards professionally, I didn't ever like make a goal for myself or a life plan and say like I'm going to be a professional tarot card reader. I had these cards that I bought for myself because I loved them, but I considered that to be a very personal, private thing that I did just by myself. And then one day it was just before Christmas, and I went into this bookstore called Lely's Books in Kingsgate Mall in Vancouver, and the lady who worked there, it was owned by this like really cool Hindu couple named Nitin and Varsha. I didn't know them at the time though, like they were complete strangers to me. But I went into that bookstore and I was looking at kids DVDs because I was thinking like my then boyfriend's little brother was 4. I was thinking like for Christmas I'll get him like it was Lilo and Stitch. I was thinking like I'll get him this Lilo and Stitch DVD. So I wasn't doing anything mystical. But the lady who owned that shop came up to me and she said, hi, would you start teaching my customers how to read tarot cards?
Wow.
And I just like kind of like jumped back and looked at her and said like, how do you know I can read tarot cards? And then she jumped back and said, I just meant to ask how you're doing. And like she told me like her intention was to say like, hey, can I help you with anything? But she said that she and her husband had just ordered some tarot cards, and it was the first time they were going to carry them at their store. And so yeah, they were thinking of like finding a local psychic who could come in and give tarot lessons. But she said like she didn't know looking at me that I was a reader. But yeah, I told her like I would be happy to. I just want to say hi to Elena and hi to Shli. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but Shli, I saw they just joined, and like I've known you two on social media for a while. Elena's one of my pen pals, so that's kind of cool.
You basically had she probably read your aura, your energy, and knew that about you.
For sure. Or like she told me afterwards, like she and her husband are like lifelong meditators and very spiritual people. Shri. Okay, there we go. I see how to say it. But yeah, I think that Varsha was in that same space of receptivity where like when you're operating from a psychic level, you're not thinking of what to say and then saying what you're thinking. You're just opening your mouth and letting existence flow through you however it needs to. So because she was in that kind of a state, instead of saying like, can I give you a hand with that Lilo and Stitch DVD, instead she said, can you teach my customers how to read tarot cards? Because she wasn't limiting herself to her personality or her opinion or her belief of what should be said in the situation. She was going with the flow. And I feel like that was my initiation into speaking out loud to other people about spirituality, because before that, I mean, I would talk to the lady at the crystal shop, or I would talk to the people at like the spiritual bookstore, but I wouldn't tell anybody else what I was doing because it was almost embarrassing. Like, yes, I really believe in this stuff. But when they invited me to come in and teach their customers about tarot, that kind of gave me the opportunity first to really study it for myself, so I knew what the hell I was teaching. And I also told them I would only do those lessons if I could give them each a reading first. And if their reading is accurate, like if they like it, then I'll come in and do teachings. But if not, like I'd only ever read for myself before, so I wasn't sure whether it was something that would actually work for other people or not. And in the back room of their store, like they took me to the back room to do the reading. And they said, okay, like read for Nitin, because he was the skeptic. Varsha was like the believer. So I thought, okay, good, like trial by fire, right? Like have me do my very first reading for somebody who thinks it's all bullshit. Like this will be fun. But like the little table that they had set up for me to do the reading was next to a Ganesha statue. And I didn't know who Ganesha was. Like I knew he's like the elephant-headed god, but I didn't know anything else about him. But they told me that they keep that Ganesha in the back of their store for his blessings because he removes obstacles. So like I just said to him in my mind, like I looked at this Ganesha Murti and said like, okay, Ganesha, please remove the obstacle of my doubt and let me be able to read the tarot cards for Nitin as well as I read them for myself, and let anything that I need to tell him come to me. Like just basically tell me what to say, because I'd never done that for somebody else before. So when we put the cards down on the table, I was interpreting these cards, but I felt this like massive compulsion to tell him that he needs to start painting again. And like it was so overwhelming that I told him like, you know what, forget about the tarot cards for a second. I'm getting this message that you have to start painting again. And to me, like I didn't know why I was saying it, but I knew it was something important because I couldn't get that thought out of my head. And then like he started to cry, and his wife Varsha like reached over and took his hand. And usually like these like middle-aged Indian couples, you don't see them with like the PDA. They're not like hand holding, hugging in public types of people. It's kind of like they broke character for a second, and like he teared up, she teared up, she held his hand. And I asked like, what is this? Like why does me telling you to start painting again have such a profound effect? And he told me that when he was a young boy in India, he lived in like a joint family home. So with his parents and aunties and uncles and grandparents. He said back then he discovered a love for art. So he would spend all his money on paints and canvases and paintbrushes. And he would just go onto the veranda and paint paintings. And that his aspiration was to be a painter. But that when they moved to Canada, he decided that like the most important thing was to open a business, put his kids through university. Like they had two sons, one's a doctor, one's a lawyer. So that's like wickedly expensive. But he said he just stopped his art completely and built up his bookstore so he could always send money home to India and raise his kids. But that the night before, he and his wife were saying like, you know what? We're ready to retire. Like our mortgage is paid off, our car's paid off, like the kids have finished med school and law school, like we're set. We can still send money home to India, but like we don't need to keep working. Let's retire. and that he had said maybe now is the time I should go buy some canvases and some paints and start painting again. So like when I felt this like weird urgency to tell him like now like start painting again, I had no idea that that was his life story, or that just the day before he and his wife were discussing that. But
Wow.
it came out. And I think this is the kind of thing that all of us can do. Everyone does do this. Like, have you ever had a conversation with one of your friends and you mention something like a song or a movie, and they tell you like, holy shit, like I just had that song stuck in my head, or like I was planning to watch that movie tonight, and you wonder like, how did I know to say that? That's what it is to be in that connected space. It's like you're not limiting yourself to worrying about you. And so other people's stuff can start kind of coming in through your filter. And when you trust to just say what you're thinking, even if it doesn't make any sense to you, like if you're feeling like, you know what, tell this person to cut meat out of their diet, or, you know, tell this person to draw, or tell this person to call their mom because it's been too long, like she's waiting to hear from you, like call her. If you get that feeling and you don't censor yourself, you'll find like your psychic abilities just start growing in leaps and bounds, because that's how like existence can see like, okay, this person is listening. And so you'll
you're
start
supposed to not neglect your psychic abilities, because that's how you're using it.
Exactly. Don't neglect your psychic ability. And if you feel like, you know what, I just have to tell this person this weird random thought of mine and I don't know what it means, 9 times out of 10, they will tell you what it means. Like you might not understand it. I'll give you another example. Like when I was giving a tarot reading to these 2 ladies came to see me back when I was working at the tarot room. And
you mind if I can grab some water quickly?
Oh, of course, of course. I want some coffee too.
I apologize.
That's okay. Don't apologize. It's been a long podcast.
Yeah, it's been a long while. I like your stories. You're very, very great stories. I appreciate you for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So I wanted to ask you, what was your coolest manifestation story?
Oh. Okay, my favorite, it's a little thing, but it meant the most to me. Like back when I was in Vancouver, there was this time when I was totally broke. Like my rent was kind of high. I still had student loans that I was paying off. And like the last day before payday, I was down to my last $5. And like I had it in my pocket. That was like my lunch money for that day. But as I was turning to go into work, this homeless man walked up to me and said, like, can you spare $5? Like, I haven't eaten anything in a couple of days. And like, I just, without even thinking, I just gave him my last $5 because, I mean, sure, I'll be hungry today, but I had breakfast. I'll have dinner when I get home. So I gave him that $5 and kept walking to work. And then like when I reached the back door to DKNY, which is where I worked at the time, I felt something on my foot and I looked down and a $5 bill had blown onto my feet from the parking lot. Yeah. And so to me, that's my favorite manifestation story, because it's not like a huge thing. It's $5 and maybe it's a coincidence, but I really felt like when you give what you have, it comes back to you. Like you never lose anything by sharing or by giving. And I've heard a lot of spiritual teachers say this, and I've seen a lot of scriptures from different world religions will say this, that if you hold what you have too greedily, you'll never increase in your wealth because you're not in the flow of existence. But like I think the Hindu goddess Lakshmi is the best example of this. Like if you look at a figure of Lakshmi, like her hand is open like this, and there are just like coins, golden coins, like flowing from her hand. And the like the symbology of that is that like she floods blessings to everyone, but she never like closes her fist to keep the stuff for herself. She just like freely gives. And as long as you're freely giving, existence will keep giving to you, like replenishing your fund. But like if you dam yourself up like a dammed river, you can't flow anymore. You're not going to get any more. Like so for me that was my favorite.
I see. Oh, that's an amazing story. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this 5G radiation? Should we
Not
protect
much.
ourselves?
You know, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that kind of stuff. I always keep some black tourmaline around when I'm using my cell phone, because I've heard that like as far as crystals go, black tourmaline absorbs that radiation. I never use a microwave. It might be like that I've bought into too much of that hype. I definitely do not believe anything from that like ridiculous QAnon. And I don't think 5G is the source of COVID-19. Like there are so many ridiculous conspiracy theories out there that like, yeah, I'm glad you're laughing, but dude, I've got Facebook. I stopped using Facebook because so many of my friends were spreading that bullshit. I might get in trouble if some of them watch this and see like, wait, she thinks I'm dumb. It's not that I think these people are dumb. It's that I think these people are intuitive and open and looking for answers outside of the mainstream. But unfortunately, like a manipulative faction has kind of latched on to that. You know, like you had asked earlier, what makes somebody vulnerable to a cult? I think it's ultimately that, looking for answers outside of the mainstream. But
yeah, everything is up to our perspectives. We get to choose what we get to believe. So,
exactly.
Listen, it's been a very long while we were on here. I appreciate you, Sarah. Let everybody know where they can find you. I'm going to upload this to my YouTube channel.
Cool.
Let them know where they can find you. I'm actually... Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll actually link her all of her social media in the descriptions below. And if you guys want to subscribe to her channel, you guys just click that card. There you go. You got your plug. Anything else you want to tell them before you left?
No, just be well and enjoy your lives, and don't let anybody, even me, like ever tell you what to do. Like trust yourself. Existence is always there for you, but you only tap into that existence through your own self, not through some other person telling you what existence has to say, or like what you should do to be spiritual, or what you should do to advance. Like listen to your own intuition, and just enjoy your life. Yeah. So thank you.
Appreciate you, Sarah. Thank you. I
appreciate you too. Thanks for this.
I hope this spreads love and light to everybody around the world who sees this. That was my intentions of all this. If you guys like my channel, just hit that subscribe button there and watch the other podcasts there. Watch these pranks. Take care, guys.